to infinity and beyond. Greetings from Amera Astronomy Center and Jordan Planetarium at the University of Maine. My name is Sean Lotch. I'm the Planetarium Director, and this is our virtual sky tour and astronomy update for the week of May 29th through June 4th of 2020. Well, space has been in the news this past week and will be for the upcoming one, so we thought we would start tonight by taking a look at how to see the International Space Station here in Maine from your own backyard. I'm bringing up a chart here of visibility of the space station, starting off with tonight on May 29th and going all the way to the 4th of June, with 3 days that I've highlighted as being extra special times to check it out. Now, before we start looking for the space station, we should have a basic conversation how to see it in the sky. There are two things that you really need to understand. One is your directions, north, south, east, and west. Knowing where that is will give you an idea of where to start looking for the space station. The second thing is something called altitude. That's how high an object appears above the horizon. So 0 degrees, where the Earth and sky come together, is, again, that horizon line, if you will. And 90 degrees is the point straight overhead, a point we sometimes call the zenith. That would be basically if you're looking straight up above you, or directly up above you, if you will. So knowing those two things, you can find the space station. So let's come back to our chart now. And if we look over here, you'll see that I've highlighted tonight as being one of the really good times. There's actually 2 chances to see it tonight, but the better of the 2 is going to be the earlier one. So you're going to want to start to look around 9:01 in the evening over in the northwest. And at 9:04, it's going to reach 45 degrees above the horizon. This is basically halfway between the horizon and the top of the sky, making it very easy to see. And the pass will finish around 9:08 p.m., or just shy to that. So again, you have about 6 minutes to see the International Space Station tonight, and it's going to reach more than halfway up in the sky, making it very easy to spot. Now, the other 2 days that are really great this week are going to be tomorrow night on the 30th, starting off at 9:50 in the evening and going to 9:55. You only have about 4.5 minutes, but it's going to reach 54 degrees, so even higher than tonight's pass. And the best night by far this week is going to be the 31st on Sunday evening, starting at 9:02 in the evening all the way to almost 9:09. So you're going to have about 7 minutes or so to see the space station, and it's going to reach 86 degrees, so almost passing directly overhead. Again, this chart shows you the direction to start looking for the space station, the highest point it will reach in the sky, and any number that is basically 45 or above makes it typically pretty easy to see, and then where it will end. So you can see sort of the direction of the path. Like tonight, it's going to start in the northwest and finish in the east, while on the 31st, it's going to start on the west northwest and finish in the east southeast. Well, I do hope you get out and look for the International Space Station. It is extremely bright. This magnitude chart over here shows you how bright it will be. Typically, Venus is around -3 to give you an idea. It is the third brightest natural object we see in our sky after the sun or moon. So again, extremely bright and easy to spot in your nighttime sky. Well, one of the reasons we're talking about the space station is because of a historic launch, which originally was supposed to go up on Wednesday, the 27th, but was scrubbed due to weather. And this is the historic Dragon Demo 2 mission, which is going to carry 2 astronauts, veterans Robert Behnke and Douglas Hurley, to the International Space Station. Well, the second attempt is planned for tomorrow, the 30th of May, starting off at 3:22 p.m. That's the time it's supposed to launch from Cape Canaveral. So what you're seeing over here are a couple images of this. Here is the Falcon 9 along with the Dragon Demo 2 capsule at the very top. And here's a little bit of a close-up of that capsule with the gangway and our 2 astronauts on board. This image was taken again on Wednesday. They tried to launch, but the weather didn't work out. Now, if for some reason the weather is not successful on the 30th or tomorrow, there is another chance to launch on Sunday, the 31st at 3 p.m. Now, this launch will be the first time that astronauts are using a commercial space provider, SpaceX, to go into space. And it's also the first time we've launched humans from U.S. soil since 2011, when the space shuttle program ended. Now, this is the 5th new vehicle to take humans from the U.S. to space. The first ones being Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and of course the space shuttle. Now I'm going to show you a little animation courtesy of NASA that's going to take at this launch. So here we go. The Dragon Demo 2 launch. We're seeing some vehicles carrying astronauts to the launch pad, which is 39A at John F. Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. And this was the same pad that was used for the historic Apollo missions to the moon and later the Space Shuttle mission as well. Now, a Falcon 9 is the rocket that is going to be used to launch this crewed Dragon Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station. Here you're seeing astronauts going across the gangway and entering the capsule itself. They'll actually do so roughly 3.5 hours or so before launch to do a variety of checks and make sure everything is ready to go. If the weather cooperates and there are no technical problems, again, the spacecraft is set to take off Saturday the 30th at 3:22 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It will take about 9 minutes or so from launch until the astronauts reach orbit. The Falcon 9 is a reusable craft, and you're going to see that first stage, which is going to fall back down to Earth and will be retrieved for future use. Here you're now seeing the separation of the Demo 2 craft on its way to the International Space Station. It's going to take a little over 15 hours for them to rendezvous with the International Space Station, and once they arrive, this craft actually will dock completely autonomously. And that makes it very nice for astronauts. They will have a manual docking if needed, but the autonomous way is the way they plan to go. Now, once on board, the astronauts will stay there for about 110 days or so and watch the system, give it a variety of system checks before returning to the Earth. The International Space Station travels around the Earth at roughly 17,500 miles per hour, about 254 miles above the Earth's surface. Well, upon finishing the mission, the Dragon Demo 2 will undock and prepare for re-entry into Earth. It will jettison the cargo area, and only the crew section will return to Earth. Parachutes will slow it down, just like the historic Apollo missions, and it will land in the North Atlantic. So we're hoping that this all goes well, again, because we're really looking forward to sending humans to space from U.S. soil once again. We wish NASA and SpaceX great success on this mission, and let's all keep our fingers crossed that all goes well. Well, in addition to the space station and the Dragon Demo 2 in the news, Comet Swan is starting to fade away, so we do hope that you have a chance to take a look for it in your night sky. Now, you'll want to do so as soon as it gets dark, looking towards the east-northeast, and right now it's going to be very near the bright star Capella from the constellation of Auriga. So here is a little chart where you can see it again over the next few days, and we're seeing it sort of right about here tonight in this area of the sky out in front, and tomorrow night it's going to be a little bit closer, and you're going to see it again sort of passing by the star Capella in Auriga. This comet is barely visible to the unaided eye, but I do recommend binoculars to see it, and you might notice it has a little bit of a greenish tint to it from some of the gases being released in the coma. Well, I do hope you get a chance to see this comet. It's really the brightest one we've had in quite some time. Now let's go ahead and move on to our sky lecture for the week ahead. So shifting gears, we're now going to use Stellarium to take a look at our nighttime sky. And I'm beginning by bringing my pointer into view here, and we're going to start by looking at the planet Mercury. Mercury really is going to be at its best this week, so do try to find it in your early evening sky. Last week we could see Venus and Mercury close together, but Mercury, it, of course, is now the planet you're going to be looking for in the evening sky over in the northwest. Venus is moving towards conjunction and will be in conjunction with the sun on the 3rd. So right now it is too close to the sun for us to catch in our evening sky. Now, I do want to put time into motion here a little bit, but before I do so, you'll notice we're facing the direction of northwest, and we have the bright star Capella here in our sky, which is part of Auriga the Charioteer, and also these two stars over here, which are Castor and Pollux, the heads of the Gemini twins. Now, this is the sky around 8:45 in the evening. I am going to put time into motion a bit here, and as we do so, and speed time up a little bit, you're going to notice that things, of course, start to get darker and darker. But one of the reasons I really wanted to have you take a look at this early evening sky is because of something that we talked about recently, and that is the International Space Station. So as this gets darker and as we move into the early evening hours, remember, we took a look for the International Space Station, and you're going to see it here in Stellarium. Stellarium does a really good job of demonstrating that for us here in the sky. So here you're seeing the International Space Station, and it just came up here a little bit above the northwest. It's going to be heading up this direction, and that gives you an idea. It is really bright, almost as bright as Venus would be if it were still visible. So again, pretty easy to spot it in the nighttime sky. And it is going to move across the sky relatively quickly. Again, you have about 4 or 5 minutes tonight to see it, but do get out there and take a look for it. Well, that International Space Station is now out of our view, so I'm going to move things forward just a little bit more, and we're going to go all the way until it is completely dark. So here is our sky about 9:30 p.m. tonight. And the other thing we talked about earlier was Comet Swan, of course. And Comet Swan is visible in our sky. It is going to be very close to that star Capella. So Capella actually a good guide tonight. Again, that space station coming up over here in the northwest. But then once it gets dark enough, you're going to see again this Comet Swan over here near Capella. Now, it is barely visible to the unaided eye if you have a clear, dark sky, but I highly recommend binoculars, which will give you a better view of this comet, and also you might be able to catch a little bit of its tail with those binoculars as well. Well, we talked about Capella. Capella is in that constellation of Auriga the Charioteer, and so if we were to mark one of those stars there, we can draw in the Charioteer, which we've done on occasion before. It sort of looks, again, a bit like a pentagon shape. By 9:30, Mercury's going to be right at the horizon, so again, you're going to want to catch it in early evening twilight so that you have a chance to see it. Well, let's go ahead and take Auriga down, and we're going to rotate our view of the sky here. And we're going to move over a little bit towards the south and west-southwest actually here a bit. Going to stop right about here when we're able to see both our directions west and sort of south there right in our sky. And you may notice that we have a moon, and the moon is actually at first quarter phase tonight. And we call it a quarter moon because you're seeing half of the half-lit side. So tonight's a great chance to look at the moon with binoculars. You could see quite a bit of detail. In fact, let's do that. Let's sort of bring the moon over to the center of our view. We're going to zoom in a little bit. If you have a pair of binoculars, you can see some of those mountains, valleys, and craters on the moon. And right here we have the moon in view, and right about here is where the Apollo 11 spacecraft landed long ago. So do check out the moon with binoculars, and again, you can see some nice mountains, valleys, and craters. Looking along that terminator, that edge that delineates day and night on the moon, really is a great way to see those mountains and craters sort of jump out in their greatest relief. And again, binoculars or a telescope will give you just a wonderful view of the moon. Well, we brought our sky back into view here, and again, we are sort of facing that west-southwestern direction. The moon tonight is going to be in an area of our sky which is known as Leo the Lion. So right here is the bright star Regulus, then there is sort of this backwards question mark or sickle shape there in the sky. A rectangle forms his body, and Denobula marks his tail. I often say that to me, Leo does look like a bit of a mouse with a curly-Q tail. If we were to draw it in, there is that image of Leo the Lion in the nighttime sky. Well, people often ask, how did Leo get in the night sky? And to show you that, we want to look at some other constellations as well. In fact, one in particular that we want to look at, and we're going to have to sort of shift our view a little bit over here. and we're going to come over into an area of the sky which is known as Hercules. So Hercules is a group of stars that we can find right over here. You'll notice that there's some meteors listed there, sort of the Hercules, and that's a minor shower, but you may see a few. I'm going to turn it off for now because we really want to talk about Hercules himself there in the nighttime sky. And so if we want to do that, we can bring our pointer back into view here, and Hercules is this group of stars right here. And it's sometimes called a keystone shape there because it's like a keystone in old buildings from long ago. And then Hercules' arms kind of come up in one direction, and one arm over here, another arm like this, and one like this. Now, if you're having trouble finding Hercules because it's not a super bright constellation, you can use the star Vega and Arcturus. If you remember, you can use the handle of the dipper to arc, and you see it just barely here, but arcing to Arcturus and spiking to spike in Virgo. So again, Hercules is sort of between Arcturus and Vega, two very bright stars in the night sky, and there again, that keystone shape. Let's go ahead and highlight one of the stars in Hercules, and we'll bring up his image there in the nighttime sky as well. There's Hercules, and you can also see Leo sort of highlighted a bit. Bring it down so you can see both of them. Well, there is a classic story about how the lion ended up in the nighttime sky, and this is one of the Greek stories. Now, Hercules was known as a hero, and I can draw in both that picture of the lion and Hercules for you. But there Hercules is. You'll notice he's kind of has his arms around a bunch of snakes there. That's actually Hydra. So Hercules had a number of labors that he was set on, and one of them was to, of course, actually get the Nemean lion. And that's the lion that is represented by Leo in the night sky. And according to the legend, this lion wandered into a village one day and started scaring people, and it was thought that it might, of course, eat them. And so Hercules went after this beast, but its skin was too tough to be pierced by spear or sword. So Hercules ended up strangling the beast with his bare hands and tossing it into the night sky, which is where we find that lion today. And again, the moon tonight will make it very easy, that first quarter moon, to find Leo there in the nighttime sky. Well, Hercules, again, if you can look between Vega and Arcturus, that makes that a little bit easier to see as well. I'm going to take those pictures off for now. And Hercules is a great object to look for if you can spot it in the sky. You will also notice that in Hercules there's a very special object here, sort of underneath one of the shoulders in that keystone area. There's an object right in here which we call M13. And M13 is a globular cluster, and we're going to try to sort of zoom in on that globular cluster a little bit for you here. And so if we keep zooming in here, you're going to start to see that little fuzz sort of coming into view right there in that keystone shape. Here again is that main keystone shape, and here is that little fuzz. Now, technically this is just barely visible to your unaided eye. Binoculars or a telescope will make it much more visible. And again, if we zoom in even more, you're going to start to see it as a big ball of stars there in the nighttime sky. And that is, again, the globular cluster M13. Very beautiful in a small telescope. And even binoculars will show it as a little sort of hazy patch of light, if you will. Well, Hercules, again, one of those great constellations to check out in the evening sky tonight. I'm going to continue to sort of pull out here so that we can get our full sky back into view a bit, or a good chunk of it. And I do want to move forward in time yet some more. And let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to move forward here, and we're going to stop right about there. This is around basically 11 o'clock at night. And I've taken you a little bit later at night because I did want to take a look at the summer triangle here in the night sky. And that may also help you find Hercules if you need some additional help. So we'll bring our view up here a little bit more where you can see the southeastern direction. So by 11 o'clock tonight, you're going to have the entire summer triangle visible in our sky. And that summer triangle made up of Vega, Deneb, and Altair. Those three stars right there that make up that triangle in the night sky, and often called, again, the summer triangle. We can draw that triangle right up there. There you see it. And the summer triangle visible from sunset to sunrise in summer. Now, right now, of course, you will have to stay up a little bit later, but you can easily see those 3 stars. And again, if you're having trouble finding Hercules, you can draw that line from Deneb to Vega and head towards Arcturus, and you'll pass right through, again, that center of Hercules in the sky there. So there again, here we have sort of Arcturus at the top. So if we bring our pointer back into view as we did, and you draw that line from Deneb to Vega, head towards Arcturus, if you will, and right there again is that Hercules constellation in your nighttime sky. Well, if you happen to stay up till 11 o'clock tonight, you're also going to notice some other things that are starting to slowly come into view in the southeast. And one of them is going to be a bright reddish star that we're going to take a look for, and that is this bright red star here called Antares. And Antares means rival to Mars. It is part of Scorpius the Scorpion. Scorpius, you'll really have to stay up much later to see the entire Scorpion, probably till around a little after 2 a.m. before you can really see the entire Scorpion. But this is sort of the top part of the Scorpion, sort of its head. Antares marks the heart, and then its tail would come down here below the horizon. But Scorpius fought a battle with Orion the Hunter, and we'll tell you that story the next time that the entire Scorpion is visible, so a little bit later this month. Well, I hope you've had some fun looking at the nighttime sky and exploring some of those stars and constellations. Do take a look for the International Space Station this week. We hope you can check out the launch of the Dragon Demo 2 and keep your eye on the sky. This is Sean Lotch from Amera Astronomy Center, wishing you wonderful, clear skies. Have a great week.